Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us for tonight's roadmap. My name is Stephanie Houghton. I'm the Managing Director of Fair Vote Washington. I am going to be the MC tonight. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So tonight we are going to be hearing from our Executive Director, Lisa Abreu. We are also going to have Kari Bull, who's going to be interviewing some panelists about the way that they volunteer for us. And then there will be time for Q&A at the end. But if you think of a question before the end, and we'll have a serious amount of time for Q&A, but if you think of a question before then, feel free to throw it into the Q&A little text boxes that are at the bottom of your screen. We are going to be getting all of the questions on this end, and we will answer as many as we can. But please do start that sooner rather than later. And with that, I'm going to toss it over to Lisa Abreu.
Great. Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see. I see names of people coming in the room. So many of you have done so much volunteering. I know we could have had our panel, multiplied by 100, I think. We've got 4 great volunteers to talk to you tonight. I get to start the evening tonight just by talking a little bit about how I got started with Fair Vote Washington, because my path came to what I'm doing now is executive director here, started as a volunteer. And I had fun remembering the path. In early 2017, I somehow found out about what I think was the second meeting of Fair Vote Washington. It was just coming together. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I showed up at the appointed hour in the basement of a church in North Seattle, and there were about 25 people in the room. And I was intrigued. I sat in the back, I watched, I was quiet, and I thought, wow, that's a really interesting group. I did know something about ranked choice voting, and the politics were pretty toxic and horrible in early 2017, and I was interested. So I came back next month, and again, I watched and listened. I did not step forward. There was a leadership team coming together. There were project groups getting started on all kinds of things. I did not do that. I was busy with my life, and I didn't volunteer. Toward the end of the year, I found myself, I'd been coming month after month, and a project got launched, and I thought, I could do that. There was going to be some signature gathering in Seattle. Yes, and I'm not sure how many folks in the room tonight knew that we actually tried once before to get on the ballot in Seattle. 2017 Charter Amendment, I think it was Charter Amendment 26, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought I could go out and try gathering some signatures. So I signed up to do that. And on a blustery, cold November morning, I remember picking up my materials and taking the bus into Seattle, because I don't live there, and starting to do that on the street and gathering signatures. And like, how do I talk to all these strangers, and what do I say? And if you volunteer with us today, you're going to get trained, but we had to sort of bootstrap ourselves. But I remember one of the first encounters that I had with a person just on the random sidewalk. He saw the words at the top of the petition. It said ranked choice voting, and he said, ranked choice voting, let's have that. He grabbed the petition right out of my hands, and he signed it, and then he turned to his friends, and they all signed. And I thought, whoa, that was fun. So from there on, I really found myself enjoying, my favorite volunteer activity is tabling, getting out and talking with people at the fairs and festivals, San Juan County Fair, Everett Farmers Market, Strawberry Festival in Olympia, the Wenatchee Farmers Market, Spokane. I've been to all of those. I'm really looking forward to doing more tabling this summer, because volunteering is really the best thing with ranked choice voting. It just doesn't get any better, because people really love learning about it and hearing about it. I'll stop there. Back to you, Stephanie.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah, so my part here is really short. I'm actually just going to toss it over to our fantastic and brand new organizer, Kari Bull. I think most of you have gotten an email from her, and this is the real deal. This is her. Kari, take it away.
Thank you so much, Stephanie and Lisa. Thank you so much. it's like really fun to have an executive director who's come from a space of working all the way up and really knowing what the entire field of work looks like and feels like. So it's a really great space to work in. And truly, Fairvote Washington volunteers are second to none. Everyone is the best. It's a complete delight to be here. For those of you who were able to attend or watch last month's roadmap, we learned a lot about some ways to counter opposition talking points. And while it's really important to know how to debunk myths, one of the most important things we actually need to be doing still and for a long time is to continue to educate new voters and lift up our supporters through the ladder of engagement. And I want to put some context around this because we've been around for about 6 years now. I think Fairvote Washington got started in about 2017. It's been more and more and more formalized. And I think people are getting itchy, like, where is this going? What are we doing? And I just want to frame it in the context that it took 70 years to pass the 19th Amendment to give only white women the right to vote. It took 50 years to legalize same-sex marriage in the United States after the Defense of Marriage Act was signed into law. And it took 14 years to pass the Civil Rights Act. So we're only a few years in, and we have already gotten ranked choice voting for primaries. In Seattle, which is one of the biggest cities here in Washington, we have a quarter of the House of Representatives signed on to sponsor and co-sponsor a bill to have presidential primaries use ranked choice voting here in Washington. And that's a lot to be proud of, and that's because of all of you. So I really want to just take a moment to thank everyone for everything they've been doing and will do. So this year, we did not get our bill through the legislature, unfortunately, but we did block a bill that was going to be really detrimental. So again, something to be proud of. And right now, between here in March and next January, we're still going to be doing the important work of talking to voters, energizing new volunteers, and growing our base so that when we come back for next legislative session, we're even stronger and more impactful. So tonight, I'm really excited to be able to pass it over to hear from just 4 of our dozens of amazing volunteers so you can hear a little bit about what their specialties are, and hopefully start seeing yourself in ways that you might want to get involved, as well as thinking about what you're not hearing and what talents you have to share, because it's a really big tent here, and we are all just really excited about making our democracy work for more people. And I'm excited. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the panel. With us tonight, we have Trenton Miller in Spokane. We have Patricia Raftery calling in from Tacoma. We have Sharon Abreu calling in from Orcas Island. And Gia, I believe, calling in from Redmond. Everett? Everett, all right. All right, thank you all so much for being here tonight. I'm going to kick it off one by one for each of you to answer. What is your volunteer specialty? Why did it appeal to you? And why did it stick? And I'll just go in the order that you all came onto my screen. So Trenton, I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Trenton, as Kari mentioned. I'm out here in Spokane. I don't know if I have a particular specialty. I've kind of done a little bit of everything over here in Spokane. Certainly being over on the east side, it's been we're a little bit more separated from a lot of the groups throughout the state, but certainly I've done a lot of tabling and going to farmers markets and just talking to people. We have a clipboard that says, what is ranked choice voting? And it's a lot of fun just walking around those types of events and talking to a whole variety of people and answering their questions. I also like to try and find local organizations who might be interested in learning more about ranked choice voting, and that's a whole variety of organizations. So I'll go and talk to them and maybe tell them a little bit more about it and answer some of their questions. And then one of my favorite events to do is ranking events. So we'll go to breweries and do beer ranking or chocolate ranking or stuff like that. So that's there.
Awesome, thanks so much. All right, Patricia, could you tell us about your main specialty, why it appealed to you, and why you still are involved with it.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Patricia. I'm in the Tacoma area, and I am a phone banking specialist. I also enjoy other activities, but phone banking really is my jam. I found Fair Vote when I was helping a lady chase her escaped peacock at a festival up north. The peacock ran past the Fair Vote booth. And later, once we'd caught the peacock, I came back to check out the Fair Vote booth and signed up, and I've been here ever since. I really enjoy phone banking because we do what's called the welcome wagon. It's really fun. We call new members. So it's always people who know who we are. They're excited to hear from us. They usually have just signed up recently. And I call them and they're like, oh yeah, I just saw you guys at the whatever farmer's market. Like, I'm so glad you called. People are always just very positive and interested. And I love talking to people like that.
Thank you so much. Fun fact about Patricia's story that she didn't share was that the first event she went to, she thought she was going to be welcomed, not that she was going to be welcoming. Somehow we just jumped right in, and she really has been here ever since. So thank you. All right, I'll kick it over to Sharon.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Did you want me to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sharon Abreu. I live on Orcas Island. I'm not sure exactly when I started getting involved with Fair Vote Washington, but I started getting involved with ranked choice voting back in 2004 when I was supporting a particular candidate and just the volunteer, and people kept saying to me, oh, that's my favorite candidate, but I'm afraid if I vote for that person, I'll be throwing away my vote. And that was in 2004. I learned about ranked choice voting, which at that time was more commonly called instant runoff voting. I got real excited about it. And I said, why are we putting ourselves through this? We don't have to do this. So last summer, I volunteered for Fair Vote Washington here in San Juan County and did a lot of tabling at the Orcas Island Farmers Market, which has a bigger reach than you might expect because we have a lot of tourists here. And so at the Orcas Island Farmers Market, I was able to connect with people who live here, people who live all over Washington State, a lot of people from Seattle, and people who live all over the United States and all over the world. So it was very interesting to have people from Ireland and Australia coming up to us and saying, you're just getting this? We've had it for 100 years. You know, but I love the tabling because I love just the connection with people. We did not succeed in passing our charter amendment here in San Juan County, but I like to think I was instrumental in getting it passed in Seattle. I spoke to so many people from Seattle and was able to tell them, oh, by the way, you know, there's going to be 2 different methods of voting on your ballot, and being able to explain to them what the difference was between those 2 and why we were recommending that they vote for ranked choice voting. Here in San Juan County, we had some challenges in that we had 4 charter amendments on the ballot last year, and we had a bunch of charter amendments on the ballot the previous year. And there were there was a faction of people here dedicated to those charter amendments not getting passed. So we didn't put enough energy behind getting them passed as a contingent. Also, there was concern we were going to put it into the charter, but it wasn't going to go into effect until it passed on the state level. So people didn't understand why that was. And that was actually in order to get it passed by the Charter Review Commission. That's what the compromise was. And people were afraid, oh, it's going to be so confusing on the ballot if some of our races are ranked choice and some of them are not. So it didn't pass here, but which I was actually really surprised about. But we will eventually get it passed here. And I'm really excited about the presidential primaries bill because It's so important. Almost 400,000 people effectively threw away their votes, Washington state voters, in the 2020 primary. And we just can't have that happening. We have to have some ranked choice element to our elections. And when we did away with the caucuses, we lost that. So we need to get it back.
Thank you so much. All right, and Gia, what is your volunteer specialty? Why did it appeal to you and why did it stick?
Let's see, my volunteer specialty is LTE, which is letters to the editor writing. Or is it, I forget the acronym, but basically I write letters to send to the editors of newspapers, and I've actually had some success with that. I've gotten 3 published in the Everett Herald, which is my hometown newspaper, which was pretty exciting. And I think that's part of the reason why it stuck with me is I started with Fairvote back in 2020. I was watching the show called The Patriot Act with a comedian called Hassan Minhaj, and he did a pretty in-depth expose on our voting system and how ranked choice voting could help eliminate a lot of the problems that we have. And it was the middle of the pandemic, and I'm like, okay, this is a way for me to volunteer in my pajamas. I'm gonna jump on it and just do this. And it's not as exciting as Patricia's story, but it's, you know, it was my coming to Jesus moment with ranked choice voting. And I think another reason why it stuck with me is not just, you know, being able to get things published and having visibility to it, but like the amount of progress I've seen. Just, you know, Kari covered, you know, put a lot of this stuff into perspective early on of like, you know, how difficult it is to get this kind of movement. And we've already had so much progress. And to just be able to see that in just a few short years has been really motivating.
Thank you so much. It is, Gia has an incredible letter to the editor writer, and later you'll learn from us how you can be too. So this next question is for Trenton. When a new person, if there's a person who wants to support you at, say, a ranking event, how do you prepare them to be successful?
Yeah, for me, I like to, if possible, I like to try and meet them either beforehand, like, you know, we can meet up for coffee or something ahead of time and just talk through, just talk a little bit about ranked choice voting. Alternatively, you know, if they're available to show up maybe 15 minutes early, generally I like to just start with saying like, hey, you know, how much do you know about ranked choice voting? Do you have any questions that you want to ask of me? And kind of just get a feel for how comfortable they are. I generally, even if someone is comfortable, I like to share with them kind of my 30-second elevator pitch of ranked choice voting, just so they have an idea of some of the things that they can say if they're uncomfortable, and giving them opportunities to understand. But really, I think it's just giving them an opportunity to just ask questions that they might have, so that they are prepared then to turn around and maybe answer those same questions. Because any question a volunteer shows up with, chances are a person they're talking to is going to have a similar question. So it's great to just give them that time ahead of time, and you know, 10-15 minutes before, or you know, a coffee or something the night before or something, just to have a little bit of time where they're not, okay, right here, thanks for coming, okay, now turn around and start talking about ranked choice voting. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Patricia, I have the same question for you. If there's somebody brand new to phone banking, brand new to welcome wagons, how do you prepare them to be successful at your events?
Absolutely. Well, I start off very similarly asking them how familiar they are with ranked choice voting. A lot of our new phone bankers will be coming from one of our events, like why ranked choice voting works. So a lot of the time they're familiar with the basics. The most common thing is going over that elevator pitch with them. So we'll practice the 30-second or 60-second pitch, how to talk to people on the phone. We always have a script available for people, so it's really easy for anyone who is a little nervous. They can always just read off the script, but if they feel more confident, they can make it their own and add their own favorite parts about ranked choice voting or their own spin. One of the great parts about phone banking on the Welcome Wagon is it doesn't take a lot of research or skill. We're calling people who already know who we are and they want to hear from us, so they're super easy to talk to. Every now and then we'll get someone really enthusiastic on the phone who might ask some really in-depth questions, which sometimes even I don't know. And then I turn around to Lisa and say, hey, Lisa, they're asking about this thing that happened 10 years ago in the city. Those are, low pressure. We usually get that person's information, let them know the answer eventually. But yeah, it's always a good time, especially with new phone bankers.
Thank you. I feel like as somebody who's done a lot of phone banking and remembering how nervous I felt phone banking, I can just only imagine how welcoming, lovingly you support everybody through this process. And Sharon, I would like to ask you the same question. As you prepare people to help you table, how would you prepare people to be successful at tabling?
Well, I would actually give them my elevator pitch, and just say, you can relax about this. It's just have fun talking with people. It's really about connecting with people and seeing if they know about this. So just ask them, have you heard of ranked choice voting? It's amazing how many people had not heard of it, and then I just tell them how I explain it really quickly. And then it just takes a matter of talking to a few people and you get used to it and you decide what kind of language works for you, what seems to land with people. And I just say, take care of yourself, bring water, bring snacks, make sure when I did it, it was great because I was able to borrow a table and a tablecloth and a canopy from Fair Vote Washington, which was super helpful because, some days are going to be rainy, some days are going to be really sunny, and you just want to protect yourself, when you're out there. But yeah, just about talking with people, listening to their concerns and giving them a little bit of info and encouraging them to learn more.
Absolutely. What I loved hearing from all three of you was that there's always an element of training. You never have to know what you're doing before you show up. And it always seems like connecting and having fun is really an important part of all of this. So I'll emphasize that. I also want to welcome, if there are any questions for the chat, feel free to throw those in there and we're more than happy to answer them after a couple more questions to our panelists. Gia, I would love to ask you a question about writing letters to the editor. What would you tell people who might feel intimidated about writing and submitting a letter to the editorial?
Well, I think I would just want to say that I think writing, and I think basically any type of art, I think a lot of people think you're somehow born with the talent and you're either good at it or you're not, but it's definitely something you can improve at. There's going to be structure provided, there's going to be constraints, Ben has always been, he's the volunteer coordinator for the letters to the editor writing, and he's always been really well prepared and very, kind and gentle in his, encouragement, as well as he's also a very good editor. So you're going to have help. Plus you have other volunteers who are just excited to be there just like you are. And none of them are really professional writers either. So you'll have people to bounce ideas off of. So you're not going to be doing it alone. Thank
you so much. Appreciate that. And shout out to Ben for being awesome at supporting people through this whole process. As Stephanie mentioned, I have not been here very long.
Sorry, my Zoom is
Oh, no problem. No problem.
I think Gia's having some connection issues, but I'll work with her to see if we can get her back.
Awesome, thank you. I was just gonna give a shout out to Ben. I've seen a lot of great letters placed already in my short time here. So next, I'll start with Trenton again. If someone wanted to help out with like a ranking event or with Fairboat Washington in general, but didn't know where to start, where would you direct them? And I'll ask this of the entire panel.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great place to start is something like our ranked choice voting 101 events. I think it's a good place if you're interested, but you want to help, but maybe you're uncomfortable and you want to know more. The 101 is a great place to learn things about how ranked choice voting works, what some of the efforts going on in Washington are, and to really just get a little bit more comfortable. But then beyond that, we do have a list of events, both online and local events on the website. It's also, depending upon your area, I would say reaching out to your local chapter lead and just say, hey, I want to help, and I might be interested in this or that, and being able to connect with them. And as the chapter lead here in Spokane, if someone reaches out, I like to do some go grab coffee or something and get to know them a little bit more and talk about what kind of event they might be interested in doing, and kind of take it from there.
So, and I'll ask that same question of you both, Patricia and Sharon, however you want to answer. If somebody didn't know where to start with your events or something else, where would you direct them?
I'll go first. So with phone banking, it's pretty simple. Sometimes we even have special phone banking events where we call a specific group. There have been a couple times we have, instead of welcoming new members, we've called specific people in a specific district to invite them to certain events in their area. That's a pretty easy place to start. It's also calling people who have already given us their information. So again, no cold calls at all. The script is a little different than welcoming new members, of course. So I definitely train people on their elevator pitch, talk to them about the event, so that we know all the information on the people that we're calling. Despite that, it's still pretty simple. It's usually 5 minutes to get prepped, and then I might do some calls with the person to start with. And then we get cracking. Again, people are still very friendly. There are people who want to hear from us. The worst we ever get is, oh, I'm sorry, that Saturday doesn't work for me. So it's always still a good time. But for those types of events, we do a little bit more specialized training.
Awesome, thank you. And Sharon, yes.
Yeah, well, I think that the Ranked Choice Voting 101 is terrific, and I highly recommend encouraging everybody to tune into one of those trainings. They're fun and they're helpful. Anything you want to do to like, oh, here's a chance I could use ranked choice voting, and just try it out with any group that you're in. One thing that we had done was gone to one of our local schools and around Halloween, and we did ranked choice voting with 3 different kinds of Halloween candy. Actually, they weren't all candy. Some of them were healthier treats, and some were candy. And we definitely had a winner, and we had a runner-up, and everybody got treats, and it was really fun. So, oh, and another thing, I'm not sure I can actually put this in the chat to everybody, but my partner and I wrote a ranked choice voting song and made a music video that you all know, this panel knows. So I'm going to put it in the chat, although I don't think it's going to reach everybody, but one way or another, I can get you the link to it, and it's ranked choice voting song, and it's on YouTube. And I got the messaging from it from Fairboat Washington.
Thank you so much for bringing up your song. I hope everyone does take a minute to listen to it. It is really spot on educationally and very catchy. Thank you, Sharon. All right, Gia, if somebody wanted to write a letter to the editor but didn't know where to start, where would you direct them?
I'd probably direct them to the website because there's a calendar there with all the upcoming events, and just sign up for the newsletter so when something's coming up, and then you sign up for the meeting and show up and just write something. Usually you leave every meeting with like a rough draft of something that you can work on. So just having a place to start, it just show up to one of the online meetings.
Awesome. That is a great suggestion. I'm going to put Stephanie and Ben on the spot too. They don't know that this is coming, but Stephanie and Ben, if somebody wanted to get involved and didn't know where to start, where would you direct them?
I agree with Gia. Go to our website and go to our events page. Make sure you're signed up, because a lot of people are like, hey, I really support ranked choice voting. And then I ask, oh, have you signed up on our website? And they don't know that that's the first step. So yeah, signing up. But if you're here, you're probably signed up. So just make sure all your friends are signed up too. Stephanie, anything you want to add?
Yes, I was not prepared to unmute myself. Yes, and my best advice if you're just starting out volunteering is to bring a friend with you. It's really more fun, and you can both talk about how you're learning more things, or like this worked for me or it didn't. And I have found that I am more like, it's just an accountability buddy, right? Like I've decided I'm going to go to 2 phone banks this year, and like I'm going to bring my friend with me. So that would be if you're not sure where to get started, bring somebody else who's not sure where to get started, and we'll make it work. Go to a Why Ranked Choice Voting Works meeting, or go hang out with one of these fine folks who's more than willing and able to train you and answer all of your questions.
Thank you so much. And I will make a plug for myself as well. I would consider myself a great resource if you don't know where to get started. Please feel free and welcome and encouraged to reach out to me. Tell me your hopes and dreams, and I will see how we can make them a reality. Okay, last question for our panel. What do you like about volunteering with Fair Vote Washington the most? We'll just go in our regular order. Trenton, you can kick it off.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's really great seeing, generally with ranked choice voting, people are very positive and interested. You don't get a whole lot of people who are like pushback or concerned. They just want to learn more because it's such an interesting idea. I think most people are able to recognize that there is a problem with our system and the way that we elect people, and they're very eager to learn about potential solutions to addressing that problem. And so it's always very positive having conversations with people, whether it's at like a farmer's market or a ranking event or something. People are always very gung-ho about it. And so I really like having those conversations with random people. And also the person who comes up to you and already knows about ranked choice voting and is very excited about it. I get those every time I do an event. There's someone who is already well knowledgeable about it and is excited. So yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, Patricia, take it away.
All right. It's a hard choice to pick a favorite thing about volunteering, and particularly phone banking. But I think my favorite is their energy. As you were talking about, Kari, change can take a long time. It can take 40, 50, 60, 80 years for changes to happen. Fingers crossed it's not that long for us. But I've been volunteering for a couple of years now, and the main thing that keeps me going is people's energy when I welcome them to the movement. I call them and say, hey, thank you for joining and thank you for your support. And people are so enthusiastic. They're so happy to join. They're so happy to learn. It's really infectious, and it keeps me pumped.
Thank you so much. Connecting with people really is so fun. I totally understand that. And as I said at the beginning, Fairvote Washington volunteers are second to none. They're just a really great group of people to work with and speak to. Okay, Sharon, take it over.
So, wait, repeat the question for me again, if you would.
What is your favorite part, or what do you like the most about volunteering with Fairvote Washington?
Okay, yeah. I really think that it is meeting people and connecting with people and sharing how exciting ranked choice voting is and how practical it is and how democratic it is. You know, just seeing people kind of light up and go, why aren't we using that? It's gratifying and it's really fun.
Thank you so much. All right, and Gia, what is your favorite part about volunteering with Fairvote Washington?
Well, I agree with everybody else that, you know, the people are definitely a great part of it. And I feel like everyone that's gravitating towards ranked choice voting is just kind of like a sensible person. So it's nice to be around other sensible people. And just because the world has been so polarized, it's nice to just work with people towards a common goal. It's just life affirming. Plus, I like writing for writing's sake too, so that's a bonus.
No, thank you so much for that. I would fully agree. It is like a really nice space where people get to come together and towards something positive, and feels great.
Yeah.
And your writing is beautiful, so thank you.
Oh.
All right, so you've heard a lot from these 4 amazing volunteers and a couple of our staff members, and I would love to learn a little bit about all of you who are on the call. We have a little survey to fill out. Ben is going to drop it in the chat. It's very short and simple, so I hope you take a minute to engage with it. And I'm going to pass it to Stephanie. All right, thank you so much. I don't know if we can't see you, but I'm just going to give a little round of applause to our panelists. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, panelists. Thank you, Kari. And also another shout out to Ben, who is behind the scenes making all of our screens move in the way that they're supposed to move. Thank you. And please do throw in some more questions for any of the faces that you see. And don't forget to fill out that form that Kari just shared. I don't mind if you fill it out while we're talking. That's okay. I encourage you to fill it out while we're talking. If we can end this night, we've got 37 people on this call. If we can end this night with a solid percentage of people having filled it out, I feel really good. Okay, so we have reached one of my favorite things about working at Fairvote Washington, which is the Q&A portion of our roadmap. So again, throw them in the Q&A, the little chat box Q&A down at the bottom. We're going to get a lot of them, so we're going to read the ones that we can. And if you would like someone specific to answer your question, feel free to put that in there, or not. I'm happy to pick. So I'm actually going to answer the first one. I'm going to ask and answer the first one. The first question that we have is, with the difficulties of getting RCV, ranked choice voting, bills passed in Washington state, would it make sense to push for a statewide referendum, such as what Alaska or Nevada have done in recent years? I'm a campaign person, and so when you ask me, should we do something, I'm going to probably turn around and say, let's go talk to some voters about it. I think that's a great idea. Let's ask the voters what they want to do. So yes, I mean, the answer is, like a statewide initiative is never going to be off the table for something like this. We are still kind of strategizing about the best plans. And like Kari said, like it takes a while. I'm with Patricia. I hope it does not take decades. I don't think that it will. But I do think it's worth having, you know, a multi-pronged strategy. And one of those strategies is like, let's ask the voters what they want to do. So yes, absolutely. There are a lot of barriers in different states. The barriers in Nevada are different than the ones in Alaska, different than the ones in Washington are different than the ones that they had a statewide initiative in Massachusetts as well. So yes, and we have a lot of work to do to prepare for that. And every single volunteer opportunity is preparing us for something like that, right? Every single time we go to talk to a voter, talk to a volunteer, talk to someone who's never heard of ranked choice voting, like every single time really, really helps. So I know that it can get like a little bit overwhelming that we're talking about like thousands of voters and like Patricia talks to like, you know, a few people, what, on Wednesdays? What, how is this? Every single dial is helpful. I've been doing this for kind of an embarrassing amount of time. And I can tell you that every single contact helps. The only way to do this is to talk to people. So anyway, that was kind of probably a longer answer than this poor person was expecting. Okay. So, okay, here's a question, and I'm gonna toss this one to both Trenton and Sharon because they are our tabling experts. If you want to have a booth at a public event, does Fair Vote Washington provide supplies? For example, banner, bumper stickers, pamphlets, etc. And tell everybody what we give them. I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, I can just start by saying absolutely they do, and I've got some of those supplies kind of right behind me. Here we go.
Show and tell, yes.
Show this real quick here. Ranked choice voting for Washington. So yeah, they do provide supplies. It's great for for tabling. I've got a whole setup here. And really a lot of it is just meeting up with your typically I would say it's probably your the county lead who would have those supplies, or if there is no county lead, then connecting with the organization themselves, and they'll set you up with some of that stuff. I've got all the things listed there: the banner, stickers, pamphlets, buttons, sign up sheets, the whole 9 yards. Even I think I've got a tablecloth. So yeah.
That's great. Sharon?
Yes, exactly that. I just felt really, really supported by, Lisa Abreu came over and brought a table and the canopy and showed us how to put up the canopy because we'd never put up the canopy before. And tablecloth, banners, buttons, handouts. We had everything we needed. And also the mailing list, because that's, if you can get people to sign the mailing list so that they keep getting updates about RCV, that's great. It was funny because we didn't have a statewide ballot initiative for this, and people wanted to sign something, to support an initiative. And I'm like, well, we don't have an initiative, but we do have these two bills. Now we're focusing on one bill in the state legislature, but people wanted to sign a petition, and we said, well, this is just a mailing list, but I encourage you to sign it so that you will get all the updates about the progress we're making.
Awesome. That's great. Those are two very specific examples. I really appreciate that. We've got some more questions that I'm going to get to, but first, Kari, has anyone filled out our form yet?
Yes, we have 18 responses.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So y'all are crushing it, but I see there are 37 people on this call, which means there are 19 more people who could fill out this survey. So I would love to get this number to 25. If 7 more of you could be part of filling out the survey, I would be delighted.
Oh my gosh, I've never been part of the NPR fundraising week, but I really feel like we're in the middle of NPR fundraising week right now. So please help us get to our goal. We have a limited amount of time to achieve this hour's result. I'm going to ask actually Lisa the next question. How do you just because you have talked, I think, to more voters, certainly than I have, you talked to so many. How do you balance talking about the positives of ranked choice voting against talking about the negatives of our current first past the post system?
What a good question. When we have the pleasure and benefit of having a one-on-one conversation at a tabling event, like most of what we've been talking about. The advice I heard from several of our volunteers here, just be sure you're really listening, Sharon. I think you emphasized that. Ask the person, you know, have you heard about ranked choice voting? What do you think? Oh, and if they begin to have some concerns, listen to those concerns. And then you're going to be making a judgment based on your read of that person. Is this somebody who wants to dig in right away and start talking about what they don't like about the current system? And you can then lean in and say, yeah, you know, our current way of voting, when you only can choose one, that just heightens the binariness and drives people to the extremes. And there's a better way. So I think generally we like to try to steer to the positives and not spend too long on the negatives. But if you don't need to go to criticizing the current system, and you can just go right away to say, hey, you know, here's this way of voting that you might not have heard about. And so often I find if it is somebody who says, no, they've never heard of ranked choice voting before, what is it? And you give that very quick pitch, like, well, it's a simple change to the ballot. Instead of being limited to just picking one, you can rank your choices in the order you prefer them. First choice, second choice, third choice. And that way, if your first choice doesn't have enough support to win, your vote isn't wasted. It goes to your backup choice. And I just stop. And so many times what you see on the person's face is just this big smile light up. And they say, wow, I've never heard of that. Why aren't we doing that already? That makes so much sense. So you really often, I find I don't need to go to bash the current system. But if the person wants to go bash the current system, we can go there too.
That's so true. I've worked for a lot of candidates, and it's really tempting sometimes to just like go after the other person. But like, it's so nice working on ranked choice voting where you can honestly just talk about how great ranked choice voting is. And it just is like people get it. You can see it in their faces. Patricia, I'm gonna direct this one to you, although I would love to hear from any of the panelists on it if you've had experience with this. This is the question. I know from my volunteering that you sometimes do get negative responses. How do you keep your spirits up?
Absolutely. Well, I will say that we get way more positive than negative. So that goes a long way to keeping spirits up. When we do get negatives, it's usually people who are not aware of how things work. So I make sure that I listen to that person, really listen, not interrupt, let them say their piece. And then I say, you know, I understand why you feel that way. This point that you made is actually not accurate because of this information here. If you want, I can send you the links to back that up. If you'd like to learn more, even if you don't agree, I would love to talk more anytime. I think in my over 2 years of volunteering, I think I've only ever gotten literally 2 people who were rude. Even when people didn't agree or didn't like ranked choice voting, they're pretty much never rude. So it is frustrating when we get people who don't like ranked choice voting, especially when the reasons they give are ones that are long since debunked. But even then, I enjoy talking to those people, and I enjoy giving them the opportunity to look at the most current information.
That's awesome. I love that you're able to like stay welcoming. That's terrific. And I've been volunteering for a long time. Not a lot of people yell at you. Like it's really like, tell more people. Like that's just not something that happens. I saw Sharon raise her hand. I'd also love to get Kari's input here because she's been organizing for a long time too. But Sharon, go for it, and then over to Kari.
Yeah.
And if you've got one more thing, Sharon, I'm so sorry. We're going to do last question. So throw it in there and we'll see if we can get to it. Sharon, go for it.
Yeah. The expectation is not that everybody is going to have a positive response, you know, but the expectation is that most people will, and most people do. So, if somebody doesn't, don't let it be discouraging to you. It may not even be about ranked choice voting at all. Sometimes people are upset about something else and they just see you and blah, blah, blah. But in any case, every interaction is an opportunity to connect with someone. And again, like Patricia was saying, if somebody has a problem with something, ask them if you can have their email address or give them yours, follow up with them if there's something you can't speak to right off the bat. But by far, most of the people that come up to the booth, that I've spoken to are very positive or just curious. But we had a couple of statisticians and a couple of mathematicians come up to our booth on Orcus last summer, and they were all like, this is our favorite method of voting. It is the least likely to be gamed. So I took that, really, really affirming.
I love these. And I want to chime in. I, like Stephanie, come from a campaign background. And when in campaigns, you're talking to voters and you come across somebody who does not like your candidate, we almost like thank them. Like, thank you. We're going to move on right away. We're not going to spend any more time talking to somebody who doesn't agree with us. We're going to go talk to this person who supports us and likes us and is going to help us get this work done. So if you can consider it sort of information gathering, it's never ever personal, and it actually is really helpful in a way because it helps us learn who we need to talk to. But yeah, it's also, that's kind of that campaigny side, but just like generally keeping your spirits up can be difficult when somebody, doesn't agree with you, but that's an opportunity for you too to really know why you're doing this and stick to your why and feel empowered to keep coming back. So great question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so important. I feel like, for me, when I first started in this space, it was really scary that oh, not everyone's going to agree with me. But as soon as I was sort of reminded that that's actually not your job. Your job is not universal popularity. It was a burden lifted from my shoulders. Oh, right. I don't need every single person. So this next one it's a combination. I'm going to make it a combination of a couple questions because a couple of folks have asked what did happen and what is going to happen. We mentioned the using ranked choice voting in a presidential primary. I'll read the question and then answer it. I think that's how that usually has worked. So what's the next initiative for Fair Vote Washington now that the presidential primary bill has failed? I'm going to sidestep a little bit because I don't think it failed. It's not going to go through for 2023, but we're in a biennium. So 1592 is still going to exist in January of 2024. I take your point though. We are able to organize, we're going to keep organizing all summer. So one of the reasons that the bill didn't go quite as smoothly as we had hoped this year was that we hadn't had an opportunity yet to reach out to a lot of local party organizations, Democrats and Republicans. And that's what we're going to focus on this summer, not just with our eye on the State House, but also with our eye on just taking advantage of a network of folks who already exist across the state in urban and rural areas, places that are close to Seattle, places that are very far away from Seattle, places that maybe have heard of ranked choice voting for different reasons, down in Yakima, over in Spokane, these are really, these are places that we really want to be focusing our energy. And those networks of the parties that already exist, Democrats and Republicans, are pretty strong. And so so we're spending the summer doing outreach directly to those groups. And then also, Kari can probably talk more about this too. We're going to be doing some tabling events and working on some really intentional voter education, especially in Seattle. So that's oh gosh, it's 6:56. I've got so many things left to say. So really quickly, so we have a lot of work to do, just kind of spreading the word about ranked choice voting in general, specifically in Seattle, about how we're going to be educating voters, because y'all are going to use ranked choice voting really soon. And one more thing that I wanted to say on this before I toss it over to Kari to tell us how many we've actually gotten forms filled out. The one last thing that I'm going to say is we have 4 volunteers on this call. We've got 4 staff people on this call. 4 staff, by the way, is everyone who works at Fairvote Washington. This is it. We've covered 4 kind of general areas of volunteering. There are so many more. There are so many more. If you would like to host a house party, do you like to bake? Cool. Invite people over and ask them to rank the cookies that you've made. That's a ranking event. That's you volunteering. Also, that is you inviting me to your house because I will happily help you rank that event, like do that ranking. It really is like volunteering can be like in your, like, and we've gone to house parties that's it. That's what happens at the house party. You get together, your friend maybe also has a ranking event later, or just tells her book club about ranking later. That's the kind of network that we are hoping to also build. And then I'm going to throw it over to Kari. Man, I talked really fast there. I'm going to throw it over to Kari to tell us how many people have filled out our form. I'm really hoping for a high number, and then we're going to close out.
Y'all did amazing and really came through. We have 24 responses. So thank you so much. I'm going to call it a win. I'm really excited to get to read these and to reach out to you. And I don't know, my job is to talk to amazing people. It's like the best job ever. So I'm really excited to get to know you more.
Yeah, organizing is the greatest. Volunteering is awesome. Yeah, I'm really grateful to all of you for joining our call tonight. Thank you all. And to our panelists, a special moment of gratitude. And just for everyone's awareness, if for some reason maybe the link didn't work, or you weren't sure how to fill out the form, or you were just totally enthralled by everything we were saying, you're going to get sent the link in a follow-up email. So no worries, you'll hear from us again and have an opportunity to check in. A really good way to just start volunteering is also to just email us and say, I'd love to have a meeting about volunteering with you. It's going to be with Kari or me or Lisa, maybe Ben. We're always happy to just talk through, like, what does volunteering mean to you? And with that, I think we're just about ready to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, shout out to our panelists. Thank you so much. Shout out to Ben for keeping us live. All right.
We'll see y'all later. Bye.
Bye-bye.